we will discuss the place of the Ottomans on the stage of history in a short and brief form from the beginning. I wish you a pleasant time. The Ottomans were one of the Turkish principalities established in 1299 upon the collapse of the Anatolian Seljuk state. Its founder was Osman Bey, also known as Osman Gazi. This small principality, which has strong rivals in the Anatolian geography, succeeded in getting stronger and expanding by making the right moves. The greatest advantage of the Ottomans was that it was in a position to expand towards the west, and there was no unity in the Byzantine Empire at that time. The Ottoman Empire, while still at the level of a principality, made good use of these opportunities with strategic moves. Orhan Bey, one of the founding sultans of the Ottoman Empire, took the first step of the Ottoman expansion into Europe. Sultan Orhan married a Byzantine princess and bought an important castle, Simp Castle, in Gallipoli as a dowry. This castle, which is the first land of the Ottoman Principality in Rumelia, it was a starting point, and the Ottomans spread rapidly in the Balkans. Being a warrior tribe, the Ottomans established a system called devshirme since the third sultan, Murad I. This system was for healthy and strong children, who were collected from villages in the Balkans, to receive military and religious education in Janissary military centers and to be raised as an elite Ottoman soldier. From these chosen Christian children, the Ottoman army system managed to create a war machine that could not see defeat. The land army of the Ottoman Empire blew like a storm on the battlefields from the 14th to the 17th century. Murad I, one of the founding sultans, had made the most important initiatives during the foundation period of the Ottoman Empire. As he founded the Janissary Corps, the first artillery units of the Ottoman Empire were also formed during his time. By conquering Edirne, he turned the face of the Ottomans to Europe and made future conquests possible. The most important sultans of the rise of the Ottoman Empire were Sultan Mehmet the Conqueror, Yavuz Sultan Selim, and Suleiman the Magnificent. The Ottoman state became the absolute ruler of the Balkans for approximately 150 years, from its foundation in 1299 to 1453. During this time, he conquered Bursa, then Edirne, and finally Istanbul, and used it as the capital. Bursa, Prusa, Edirne, Adrianopolis, and Istanbul, Constantinople, were located at the most important crossroads of Anatolian geography. The Ottomans, who dominated this region, took the key to the transition from Asia to Europe. The Turks won their first victory against the Byzantine Empire during the Great Seljuk State. The Battle of Malazgirt in 1071 opened the doors of Anatolia to the Turks who immigrated from Asia. There have been many conflicts between Byzantium and Turks over the centuries that followed. Byzantium, which experienced the disaster of the Latin invasion in 1204, was occupied by the Crusader armies. Civ. Crusade, he could not straighten his back even after this disaster. The rising Ottoman pressure after the collapse of the Anatolian Seljuk state marked the inevitable end. Yildirim Bayezid was the first Ottoman sultan to make an attempt to conquer Istanbul. Bayezid, who had the Anatolian fortress built, could not realize his plans due to the outbreak of the Ankara War. Second try too. It was in the period of Murad. However, the Italian trade colonies, Venetians and Genoese, who did not want Constantinople to fall, helped Byzantium. Sultan II, who observed his father's reasons for lifting the siege, well. Mehmed Fatih took the job tight from the beginning. Fatih Sultan Mehmet, who had the Rumeli fortress built to block the Italian ships coming from the Black Sea, sunk a Venetian ship as an example. Byzantine Emperor VIII, who felt the pressure of the Ottomans. John Palaiologos attended a meeting in Florence and asked the Pope for help. However, the memories of the Latin invasion I mentioned above were very fresh. The bandits of the Crusader armies from Western Europe in Istanbul were not forgotten. For this reason, the people did not support the emperor, and, in Istanbul, we prefer the Ottoman turban instead of the Latin cone. The number of those who said increased. The last emperor 11, Konstantinos Palaiologos, was desperate. If the Genoese had not helped, they would have no chance against the Ottomans. However, the Genoese commander named Giovanni Giustiniani helped defend the city. This only delayed the Ottomans from taking the city. On May 29, 1453, Istanbul, one of the most important port cities in the history of the world, was conquered. After the conquest of Istanbul, the Ottoman Empire, which became a multinational empire day by day, conquered Mecca, Medina, Jerusalem and Egypt, which were holy lands during the reign of Yavuz Sultan Selim. The Ottoman Empire, located on the Silk Road from China and the spice route from India to Europe, had an endless source of income. Throughout the Ottoman history, the greatest financial income was obtained from these trade routes. The continued rise of the Ottoman Empire reached its peak during the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent. Sultan Suleiman, he made great reforms in law, education, architecture and social life in the Ottoman Empire and made a significant progress. European countries were just emerging from centuries of church repression during this period. The people have suffered greatly due to hundreds of years of religious wars and plague epidemics in Europe. Europe, which was going through the Renaissance and reform processes, had not yet recovered. On the other hand, the Ottoman Empire was at the height of its power. For this reason, Sultan Suleiman is known as Suleiman the Magnificent, especially in European history. The empire reached its greatest borders on 3 continents during the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent 1520 to 1566. Also in this period, Turkish sailors Barbaros Hayrettin, Piri Reis and Turgut Reis consolidated the dominance of the Ottomans in the Mediterranean. Mimar Sinan, who is regarded as the most talented architect of the Ottoman Empire, also lived in this century. The architectural style known as the Classical period in Ottoman history peaked in this period. Works such as the Süleymaniye Mosque and later the Blue Mosque were built with this architectural style. The rise of the Ottoman Empire continued until 1699. However, with the Karlowitz Treaty, it started to lose land for the first time in Ottoman history. Social and cultural breakthroughs and technological developments such as the Renaissance and Reform in Europe, unfortunately, did not find a response in the Ottoman Empire, and the empire began to fall behind the West in artistic, cultural and military terms. The technological superiority of European countries caused the Ottomans to sacrifice more and more people in order to protect their lands. The Ottoman Empire, which was known as the sick man of Europe in the 19th century, in the midst of the power struggle of countries such as Britain, France, Austria, and Russia, it suffered serious shocks and lost vast pieces of land. Moscow, which was a small principality during the rise of the Ottoman Empire, rose and became stronger since the time of Tsar Peter the Great, Mad Petro. The Turks won the first wars between the Ottoman Empire and Russia. However, the Russians got stronger and caught the Ottomans. The wars between the Ottomans, Russia and Austria led to great disasters. All 3 empires lost people and resources. For the first time, the Ottomans had to borrow money to finance the ongoing wars with the Russians. This prepared the way to economic collapse. In an effort to modernize during the bad course of the empire, 3. Selim, 2. Sultans like Mahmud and Abdülmecid also ascended to the throne. Sultan 3. Selim made structural reforms, Sultan 2. Mahmud reorganized the army, and Sultan Abdülmecid made political, artistic and architectural breakthroughs. But their efforts were not enough to prevent the empire from moving towards collapse. In the last years of the Ottoman Empire, Sultan II, during the reign of Abdülhamid, a postal and telegraph network was established and railways and stations were built with the help of the Germans. Modern order hospitals and schools were opened and a war academy was established in Istanbul. Successful officers who managed the army properly during the First World War were brought up from these schools. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire was due to the Balkan War and the First World War that followed immediately. With the influence of Enver Pasha and the Party of Union and Progress, it was decided to enter the First World War alongside Austria and Germany. The empire, which had just emerged from the Balkan War, was tired and had to fight on many fronts. He sacrificed his trained manpower on the World War fronts. Nevertheless, a large-scale initiative of the Allies, who were planning the invasion of Istanbul in these unfavorable conditions, was stopped in Çanakkale. During the fierce battles in Gallipoli, an Ottoman staff officer shone standing out as a military genius in Gallipoli, Mustafa Kemal organized the War of Independence in Anatolia, the heart of the Ottoman lands completely occupied after World War I. The Turks, who fought an epic struggle, removed the occupying forces from Anatolia. Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, the secular Republic of Turkey and making major reforms to build a modern state, was on the front foot. The new Republic of Turkey was born literally from the ashes of the Ottoman Empire. Ottoman legacy in Istanbul. The Ottoman left a great cultural and artistic legacy, especially to the city of Istanbul. The most magnificent and beautiful examples of these are Sultanahmet and Süleymaniye mosques and Topkapi and Dolmabahce palaces. In addition to these, countless palaces, pavilions, Turkish baths, mosques, çeşme, madrasa and tomb add beauty to the beauty of Istanbul.